going to go ahead and get us kicked off here. I'm Kristen Lodge. I'm the Director of Development and Communications at the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center. Welcome to the Census 2020 Q&A session with our local and state census coordinators and community leaders. Today we have Spanish translation provided by Joe with Claris. If you're logged into Zoom, you have the option of listening to the translated audio channel, and you can do this by clicking on the icon of the globe and selecting the Spanish option. Our mission at the museum is to engage and educate here in the Wenatchee Valley community. Our museum also serves as a community forum, a place where we can meet with our neighbors and learn about issues that are important to our community and discuss our thoughts and opinions. And while we're not able to gather physically at the museum right now, we've just really enjoyed the opportunity to gather virtually in forums like this until we can be back together again in person. So our goal today is to provide our community with the opportunity to learn from these local leaders about how the census effort makes a difference in our community and to get their questions answered about the census. Leading the conversation today is Brooklyn Holton, a housing and community planner with the city of Wenatchee. We're also joined by Lisa McClean, a 2020 census coordinator with the state of Washington, and by Alma, Chacon, and Mario Reyes, who are serving as the local North Central Washington census coordinators. And I'll be on hand today to moderate the session. We've been collecting questions from the community, and we encourage those that are joining us live on Zoom or on Facebook Live to join the discussion. If you're on Facebook Live, feel free to leave a question in the comments. And if you're joining us on Zoom, you can ask a question in Q&A or chat. I'll monitor your questions and do my best to make sure they get answered. For now, I'll turn it over to Brooklyn, Lisa, Alma, and Mario. To start us off, can you tell us what is the 2020 census and why is it important?
Thank you, Kristen. So hi, everyone. I'm Brooklyn Holton, and I was leading the Complete Count Committee for the North Central Washington region. And the census, the 2020 census is essentially survey that gets completed every 10 years. And it's a snapshot of where our communities are across the nation in terms of population and demographics. And what do our households look like? What do our communities look like in terms of growth and age distribution? What do the race and ethnicities of our community look like? This data is important, and I'll definitely let my other colleagues share more information. But it's important because it determines around $675 billion worth of federal funding. So how do those dollars get distributed across the nation to each of the small communities? So, you know, our Pateras communities, when we think about the fires, how does that response happen? When we think about Leavenworth and all the outdoor recreation, or even Mission in those areas, anything that receives federal support or federal funding is determined by the data collected at the census. Alma or Lisa, and maybe I should turn it to you because you're so well versed and you're in this deeper in a connection with the Census Bureau than I think any of us on the local level are.
Thanks, Brooklyn. Yeah, I think I would echo what you're saying. I think maybe I could put it also in terms of the individual is basically it's about $2,193 for each person per year. So if you take that over 10 years, we're talking about $21,930 per person, or we could lose 5.8 million for every household, for every 100 households we are missing in the state. So it's really important, and I think Brooklyn, you're absolutely right. It's not just important in terms of the fires, but how we draw those fire districts. Remember how our representation in the 2010 census, we had grown so much that we got another representative. You're our new representative, I believe. And now we don't expect that to change, but still, the way that we draw the boundaries of our school districts, our fire districts, our state legislature, all of that's going to be dependent upon if the data we have about the population. So that's what's so important: money and representation, political power and economic power.
Yeah, so I will thank you. Absolutely. So the money that comes into the states and looking at the number of people that are counted to determine representation, like Lisa was saying. And I think another big factor are the services that will benefit these communities, our state and the communities, if everyone is counted. Of course, if we have more people counted, then more money comes into our state and into our communities. And these monies are used for various purposes, such as transportation, education, all the social services that we have at our local communities and in our state communities depend on these dollars. So that is why it's so important that everyone is counted. We need the children to be counted. We have a lot of children's services that depend on this money. So from the smallest child to our oldest members, these monies will make a difference. So it is extremely important that we all get counted so that every age group, every person receives better services in our communities.
I'd like to welcome Mario to the conversation too. Hi, Mario.
Hi, Mario.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So I understand September 16th is a Census Day of Action. Tell us what the census effort hopes to accomplish today.
Yeah, so there's been a statewide advisory group that's been meeting throughout the census time period. There's been a lot of up and down understanding around the deadline for the census. So originally it was supposed to be completed in the summer, and then it got extended kind of multiple times out to October. Now, right now we're at September. And so that statewide group has been meeting to try and coordinate a cohesive message to all of our communities about what is the census, what is the value in it, what does it ask, what does it not ask. And so with the kind of deadline coming up, we King County be able to message on a single day, a big push. We're doing great in terms of our statewide response, though in our area, especially being so rural and farm-based, have a lot of individuals who are considered hard to count and hard to reach. And those might be, so hard to reach might be someone who is living at home, they're out, you know, in a really rural farmland area, maybe don't have internet or just have a single flip phone. So that's an individual that's really hard to reach. We also have hard to count. So our community being so strongly agriculturally based, have a lot of individuals who come in to help with our harvest season, and then also kind of follow that season around. So there may be a transient in terms of their housing, and also individuals who might, this is one of my favorite examples, but individuals who work with a carnival, they can be hard to count and hard to reach. And we actually have a youth circus here. They're local, but I love that example because it gives a really good snapshot of how diverse our populations are that we're trying to count. So today is really a day to say
a circus right now. Those days feel so long ago, doesn't it?
I know. I know.
How fun does that sound?
I know. If anyone sees an online circus performance, let me know. I want to watch it. I'll get my cotton candy. But today is really just about bringing that message together in as many languages as possible to say, we need to be counted. We need to have those resources come in. And instead of saying, hey, everyone, you know, promote when you can and how you can, we wanted to try and do really just big, almost saturation of almost to its deadline. And it's more important than ever.
Great, I agree.
Anyone wants to add? Lisa, you've been a big part of that statewide group.
No, I mean, I think it's, you put it out there, so we're, with the deadline of being the 30th of September, perhaps, we really just want to see what we can do as a united front. I mean, I think that one of the things I think that has been really great about this process is we've really created a kind of new new statewide network that includes people like Alma and Brooklyn and everything. And we've all just been really committed to this process, and we might only have, 14 days left. So we really want to make sure that people get out there and go online, make the telephone call, and fill out their census so that we can get the resources that they need and we need.
Yeah, and in addition to social media, Alma, if you want, and Mario can maybe touch on the amazing work you guys have done and how you utilize today, and also some other kind of big drawing events. I saw a lot of Facebook activity from your team today, so would love to have you share about that.
Absolutely. So, so we had people in Brewster, Bridgeport, Chelan, Leavenworth, Wenatchee, East Wenatchee, up through Grant County, Moses Lake, Grand Coulee, Mattawa. We went all over. Put up big banners, census banners. We had tabling events. We were going door to door. Mario and a group of other people went out into businesses, storefronts, gave out information and answered questions, assisted people with completing their census where they have questions. We just did a tremendous amount of outreach. And it was beautiful. Created videos. We created videos. March came around. When March came around, COVID hit. All of our team immediately went into Plan B, and it was totally amazing. You know, people learned how to use social media that they didn't know how to use before, and everyone is more proficient now technologically. Went into social media, did post things every single day. They're still doing it, especially today. All of us that have been engaged with the census. Last night I put out a video. Some of our people actually had a couple of tabling events in the Chelan and Pateros area, and also in, let's see who else. Oh, in East Wenatchee today. So we still have tabling events going on, people giving out information. Mario is going to do something this weekend and Monday as well. So we're going to continue passing the word out. But today, because it's a day of action, we have the whole team. Our goal is to let's think about it again. Let's not forget it. We only have till September 30th to get the word out. Your voice counts. Everyone counts. Let's complete our census. So that's the message for today. We've got to do it.
That's great. Good work today. I bet you're exhausted. I hope you have a comfy chair and a drink waiting for you when you're done here tonight.
After this program.
Yeah, you earned your margarita. Good. Well, we have a question from our audience. We have a mother whose children are somewhere between grown and college aged. And she said she got her census in the mail, so she filled out the questionnaire there, and none of her children have received theirs. And I believe they weren't accounted for. So her question is, what do we do now? How do they get counted?
Okay, Mario?
Lisa, do you want to take that? Or do you
so eager to answer this. Yeah.
They have not been counted. They have the option to, like still initially what happened, to enter to the web page, www.2020census.gov, or make a phone call, depending, if it's English or Spanish. The phone is 844-330-2020. It's an English person. If not, 844-468-2020 for a Spanish speaking person. So that would be the options that they have still is working to complete the census. I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, that's great. And how long does it take to participate? It's been a while since I filled mine out. I honestly can't remember. Can you tell us a little bit about what types of questions they ask and how long it takes?
There are 10 questions. It's pretty easy, very straightforward. Probably will take around 10 minutes, depending on the number of family members, because you have to include the name and the day of birth of each individual part of the family. But if not, it's just like they're asking verification of the address. They ask if they own the house or it's for rent. The number of family members, and how's the relation with the person that is filling out the census. And then there is a question about ethnicity and also race. So, for example, a Hispanic-speaking person could be using a Hispanic, and then race. They have the option of black, white. One of the most important part, there is no any question related to if the person is a U.S. citizen or resident or any legal status, so, immigration status. So, and that was one of the things that create a lot of confusion in the. Sorry about that. Create a lot of confusion and a little bit the people who was worried about that question, especially in the Latino community.
There was a lot of concern about that. Is the information that people share secure? Is there privacy related to the census?
Yes. Yeah, by law, the only thing that data can be utilized for is for census information. I will share that there is I believe 72, is it 72, Lisa? 72-year timeline on data. So at that 72-year mark, the data does fall under it. That law of data sharing is relaxed. And so that's one thing that I think a lot of people have some fear around, but that the only utilization of that data is for purposes of the census. I just want to touch back real quick on your earlier question about the individual who has college students. If they had filled out their census online, they won't be able to edit it. So when they go in to type in their address, it'll come up and say a census has been completed. If this is incorrect, it'll give you a phone number. So if you do need to amend your census, it will prompt you if you go into the online to amend that to call. So whether you did it through paper or phone or online, it'll prompt you to call a phone number to amend that census.
And can I ask a follow-up question on that? So that would be applicable if that college student lives at home, right? But if that college student lives away full-time, would they receive their own census?
They will.
Yes. Yeah. And Lisa, do you want to touch
on behalf?
Yeah, maybe I'll take this because we're pretty concerned about this. You are to be counted at the place where you live and reside most of the time April 1. Because of COVID, many of the college students actually left the college campuses before April 1. So in our confusing COVID days, okay, you are still to be counted where you live and reside most of the time where you would have lived and resided. So if you have a college student and you counted them, they're in Western Washington University and you counted them at your home, they really need to go and get counted where they were living in Bellingham. And it's okay if they get counted twice, but it's very concerning that these college towns, the people who lived off campus aren't getting counted in the places where they lived off campus. And so that's going to be a problem for the Census Bureau. So we need to get the message out that if you have a college student, the college student should have been counted at the place where they would have been living most of the time, which is 9 months of the year in their college town.
That's really interesting. Okay, I don't think I realized that. So in this instance, going with this special circumstance, what if they were counted twice? What would they need to do then?
If they're counted twice, it's not, the Census Bureau is going to be basically be working on this. They're concerned about that. So a colleague of mine did count his child who came back from UW at the home in Olympia. And then check the box, does this person go to school? When they ask the question, does this person live here most of the time? And there was something, and they checked that he was in college. The Census Bureau actually called my colleague and said, so what's up? And then they corrected that information. So you can count on the fact that the Census Bureau is going to basically know that there's a Lisa McClean who's 18 years old and is claiming that she's living in Olympia, But then there's also Lisa McClean, who's 18 years old, born on this date, who's claiming she's living in Bellingham. And remember, we provide our telephone numbers. So they might call and say, hey, Lisa McClean, you don't look like you're 18. And where are you living, in Bellingham or Olympia?
That's a
Yeah,
great.
I was going to share one of the things that they've been really trying to push, and one of the reasons for a lot of the deadline and adjustments in like the numeration timeline is to ensure accurate count. So the two goals, right, of the census are to get a complete count and an accurate count, which means to count everybody, but only count them once in the appropriate place. So they've put a lot of resources into ensuring that they have some kind of back end evaluations to make sure that that data is as accurate as possible.
That's really helpful. And it feels pretty clear cut until you start explaining some of those special circumstances, like you said, with migrant workers or the circus or college students. I'm thinking about babies that are born on and around that date, military personnel. I'm sure there's lots of instances where things get tricky there. What about people displaced by the disasters or people who have no permanent addresses, people who are homeless? How is that an effort made to connect with them?
I'm happy to take this unless someone else wants to.
Go ahead.
So you kind of mentioned multiple populations in that single question. So there's a difference, right, between somebody not having an address and there's a difference between somebody experiencing homelessness. So there's different ways that those are counted. Numerators will go and essentially work in kind of what it would be easy to understand as a group, like a group living quarter or a combined living quarter. And that would be treated a separate way. So if there was like some of the housing shelters in Wenatchee are counted differently than like an individual who doesn't have a specific home address and maybe only gets mail at a PO box. So those are two different groups. And the numerators are a big part of helping to count those that might be living in a group quarter and coordinating also with those housing services and the agencies themselves. When it comes to individuals living in the home, maybe that doesn't have an address, or especially, I mean, we have the fires right now, right? And so people are displaced. If they're planning to rebuild, technically they still have that address. That address hasn't disappeared. They're just physical structure has. So that would still be the place that they plan to live. It's not likely that they would be, you know, I think a lot of people right now were evacuating into the high schools and things, or churches. Those would not have to be identified as like a living place, especially if that happened in April, because it does look at the majority of the time, like where you're living the majority of the time or intend to live. And then touching on, we're kind of past that, but the pregnancy piece was a big question too. If the baby wasn't born, I think, Lisa, to correct me if I'm wrong, before April 1, they weren't considered included on the census.
They weren't born yet.
Yeah. So,
Okay. And,
lots of information.
let's talk about the data a little bit. How do census responses compare to the 2010 census?
Well, I want to mention something about by August, the end of August, we have in Chacon County around 57% of the response. 10 years ago, it was 72% for Chacon County. So still we are kind of numbers compared with 10 years ago is less. So part of, the pandemic have a lot to do with that, because especially as Brooklyn was mentioned, in rural areas, it's hard to get to some places. And also we have a lot of farm workers that they are living in the state for more than 9 months, but unfortunately, sometimes there is a confusion by the employers if they how they do the counting. So we have when we were working in the field, that was one of the situations that some of them they were they say, oh, the employers gave us the form and there was no any indication that they have to. It was a they have to complete the form, For then it was if I want to do. But so that was all of my concern when I was in the field, how it's going to be the counting of that population, how precise and accurate it was going to be the counting for farm workers. So and also other indication, for example, Okanagan County with a range that 40 something percent, low 40 is a really put Okanagan County in the position 37 and 39 counties, so almost at the bottom of so. And Okanagan County is one of the poorest counties in the state. It's one of the counties that need more resources. So, and it's very unfortunately the all these geographical things conspire to to have a real count. And also when we were doing some work in Okanagan County, we know that for some people, and they were no Latinos, they were no working. Why people say, no, I'm not interested in, So in some rural areas also that sentiment about like it's the census is part of the government intromission in their life. So I believe that could be one of the reasons because there is no other explanation, how one of the counties that need more money don't get to, not even to 50%.
Can I just clarify a second here? Is one thing is these figures, it definitely is in Chelan County and in Okanagan, they are not self-responding at the same rate that they did in 2010. And that's partly also it's got issues. It's definitely, there are some things where people don't want to, they don't know that it's important and the like, but it's also partly because of some problems that we had with the way that the census took place. There was this operation that got suspended because of COVID. But that's self-response. And the key thing is self-response is the best thing. For me to go online and to say, you know who lives here? I'll tell you who lives here, and I'll tell you what their ages are, and I'll tell you everything about them, right? At the end of the day, we will get 100% count for Washington State. Census Bureau will have a 100% count. It's just, how are they going to get all that data? When they start to knock on the doors, it becomes less accurate because people don't answer the door, especially in these days of COVID. They don't want to participate, So then they begin to ask the neighbor, or they kind of say, well, let's see, this is a neighborhood of people, an average of 4 people per house. Yes, okay, so yeah, there's probably 4 people in there, where actually, in fact, there might be a multi-generational family living there. So we start getting inaccurate at that point. So the point being is that this is about us. If we care about what's in our community, how much is invested in our schools, in our hospitals, in our parks, everything like that, then we want to be seen. I know that some people want to say that they might be frustrated with the government, but the fact of the matter is, unless we stand up and raise our hands and be seen, then they're not going to know that we exist. And that's why it's so important for people to take the initiative themselves to go online and say who they are.
Thank you, Lisa. I think that's great. If our viewers, and I know I speak for myself too, I participated online early on. Are there other ways that I can support the effort once you've already participated?
Absolutely. Social media is a powerful tool. And there are so many different ways that you can share the value. Depending on what group I'm in, I might share how the census contributes to, so in Chacon County, we have like 87% public lands. That's a huge percentage of land in a single county to be public. And for those lands to be maintained and open and taken care of, it requires funding, which is usually coming from a federal source. So if I'm, talking with my recreation friends, whether it's dirt biking, snowboarding, hiking, fishing, I can talk about the census in that capacity. If I'm at work or I'm talking with nonprofits that are providing a social service, or at work when I'm talking about transportation for pedestrians or multimodal, which would be like bike, transit, like Link Transit, huge. I mean, that's a publicly funded asset to our community. So depending on, what sector you work in or what types of environments you recreate in or engage in, those are ways that you can kind of tailor the conversation and the importance about census. So understanding that's really good. I shared this forum on some pages on Facebook, and 2 people commented and said, oh, I did that today. It took me 4 minutes. And I was like, awesome. And someone else said, check mark done, and so some people have said, I challenge you to complete the census, or like, how many people will join me in the census? So just really creating kind of 2 things. One, some understanding of the importance of it, and then also some support in completing it, saying, hey, we're doing this. I'm doing this. Let's do this together. I don't know if other people have ideas. I know Alma and Mario, you were out in the community so much.
Yeah, I think that every opportunity, I think you said it well, Brooklyn, every opportunity we get, especially within our circle of networks or friends, putting a little blurb, just have you completed your census yet? And put down, go to my2020census.gov and complete it, or write down the phone numbers where they can call. And it really is fairly quick. We say 10 minutes for 10 years of benefits, but really it's like 4 minutes for 10 years of benefits. But I think if you say 10, that seems doable for people, and then the phone numbers again, Mario's really good at the phone numbers. I can give them to you, but Mario, go for it.
Okay.
You said them earlier, 844.
For English is 844-330-2020. And for Spanish is 844-468-2020.
And we have this cute little bookmark that, it's, anyway, it's mirrored. That Brooklyn put together for us, and it says 10 minutes a day equals 10 years of benefits, Census 2020, and then it says go to my2020census.gov to complete your census online, and it also has the phone number on one side, 844-330-2020 for English, and the other side has the same information. Go to my2020census.gov to complete it online, or call 844-468-2020 to complete it in Spanish. So I think that if we give people those tools, that it's really easy. You can go online, you can make a phone call. If they still have their paper packet that they got, they can send that in if that's easier. But if they don't have it, go online or get the phone out.
As Brooklyn was mentioned, we use any opportunity to pass information and to remind people how important is the census. For the last 3 weeks, I've been doing an intensive registration activity for the college, and I have been talking with people. One of the questions is getting the information, passing information about the classes, and the last thing is, hey, you guys, you complete the census. So some of the people, yeah, others not really. Okay, I can help you. Immediately, we use that opportunity to help people to complete the census, to remind them. And also at Cafe, we have been doing some events for free COVID-19 testing at Cafe. We have been setting up tables all the time that we have been doing these activities to census information. So when people come to get your their test. We give a little bag with census information, and then if we asking them if you want to complete this right now, we can help you. So it's having an ongoing process that we have been working to try to complete.
Yeah. And I'll share that the Colville Tribes right now has large gift cards that if you are a tribal member or live on the reservation, and you're able to demonstrate to the council that you have completed your census, you will be put into a drawing for that. I think it's like $100 gift card, and they're doing multiples of them. So if anybody is able to qualify for that, just complete the census and let them know, maybe a screenshot or an email showing, hey, you know, my address is completed. There's a lot of incentives like from nonprofits or even, you know, just the tribal council to try and get that because they know the value of it. And another thing I want to share as well is ask your local municipality, so your town or city or county government, and say, what have you been doing, or how can I help spread the word about the census? Because our communities run on government funding. I mean, I know we have our property taxes, some states have their income tax and their sales tax, but I'm in so many projects, and the majority of the funding, if not all of the funding, is federal or state funding that trickled down in some way from a federal or a census mandate, census utilized data system. So it's huge. I mean, it's what makes our communities function. And if that data for our communities, like what Lisa said, is based on a guess or someone kind of arbitrarily looking around and saying, this looks like a white picket fence with a family of 4, like, and there's really a multi-generational or even a single individual who wanted to purchase that home, we just won't have the funding and the kind of community capacity that we could have otherwise. I mean, even if you think about the museum and the programs that you offer and the funding opportunities that you guys have, I mean, so much of that is tied to the census data.
Also, in the current situation with the fires and emergency funds for the counties and the state is so important. The census data too. This is the time when we say, "Oh wow, we really need these dollars." So, emergency situation like what you know, Douglas County and Bridgeport, Mansfield, they are suffering. They need those resources.
Great. Well, this video is going to live on the museum's Facebook page, and I'm really eager to, once we get off, I'm going to share this with my friends. You guys are really working hard, and I'm such a believer. So thank you so much for your work. Is there anything else you'd like to share with people before we close tonight?
I would just like to say that between now and September 30th, if each one of us tells a friend to complete their census, that's going to make a huge difference. Tell a friend and then have them tell a friend and keep passing it on. It's so important. And those of us that have the ability that are already doing other things, make it a part of that. For example, we have a radio program where we talk about COVID. Well, we always put in a slideshow before the program, which talks about completing the census. It talks about registering to vote. It talks about rental assistance is available. So every opportunity where you can, slide it in, give people the information that they need. But if every one of us makes a commitment to make sure we have completed the census and tell a friend and pass it on, tag you're it. Let's do it together.
Well, great. On behalf of the museum, I'm happy to add that to our events and things coming up too. I love that. Register to vote, complete the census. That's great. Good. Anything else I should have asked that we didn't get to chat about tonight?
I just want to offer myself as a resource. So if anyone is struggling with completing the census or has questions about it, I'm more than happy to have a phone call or email. And we are able to guide you through that. That's something that myself, Alma, Mario, and I'm sure Lisa too have had quite a few different experiences doing so. So please, if it's something that you're questioning, reach out to us and let us know, because we're more than happy to help. And if you want a better understanding of how it affects your community or how you can do some messaging, we have a lot of social media templates and a lot of information about how to share and reach out to different groups.
I have a quick question for Lisa. I don't know, could you give us an update about the possibility, the extension to October? I was reading the some states are debating. I just put as a debating.
So Mario's, I'm not saying you're getting down the weeds, but let's give to the audience. There have been a lot of political, I don't know, not political, but there's been a lot of legal issues around the census. And as Brooklyn said, the census was supposed to end at the end of July, and instead they extended it out to October 31st because of COVID, expecting that Congress would give relief and say, no, the president doesn't need to, Census Bureau does not need to give the president the apportionment count by the end of December. But they never did that. They haven't done that yet. So the Census Bureau suddenly shortened the timeline to September 30th. That went to court, and the court has ruled that they are not allowed to shorten the timeline to September 30th temporarily. So right now, they're supposed to count until October 31st. We expect to learn next week whether or not that will be a preliminary injunction, that will be a permanent thing. So next week, the judge is very aware of the fact that she needs to rule quickly. There's a preliminary hearing on the 22nd, and she said she promised that she would rule as quickly as possible after that. And is that a ruling that there's going to be a permanent order to continue to count through October 31st? I don't know. Or are we ending on September 30th? Key thing is, do it now, because it might be too late if you do wait until September 30th. Does that help, Mario?
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. I want to thank our panelists today, Lisa, Alma, Brooklyn, and Mario. Thank you so much for joining us, for your time and for your hard work on behalf of our communities. I also want to thank our attendees for joining us, for their thoughtful questions and their participation. These past few months have been difficult for us as a community, and I'm so appreciative for these opportunities to draw together and discuss this important topic. We have other events coming up at the Wenatchee Valley Museum, all of them with which I will make sure to talk about the census. You're invited to join us this week for our virtual garden tour series. We've got fun makerspace family classes coming up, and the continuation of our social justice conversation series. I invite you to visit our website at wenatcheevalleymuseum.org to learn more. Thank you so much for all of your time tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.